So we'll just be looking at this image and try to replicate in HTML, CSS. All right, so currently it's an empty HTML file. So when you get an empty HTML file, what you can do in VS Code is type an exclamation mark, and it will auto-generate all the CSS, all the boilerplate HTML for you. Let me move this to the other side. Actually, I don't need the terminal. After I haven't opened it. Actually, I need to open this. Replicate. Airbnb. Oops, open the folder instead. Airbnb.html. So this is the auto-generated HTML. So we'll just open that quickly. Yep, and then it's empty, and we don't need the terminal. Cool. So we'll be looking at this and making our own Airbnb website, a mockup. That cursor is not part of it. That's just a cursor. We don't need to make that. Otherwise, you might have to do like a vector or SVG. We can also use FFF for the color instead of, yes, that is correct. So hash FFF or RGB, they are like translatable, so you can use either. Okay, cool. So we'll start by layering out the structure before we get into CSS. Okay, let's start with looking at the image first. There is actually a line in between here to separate the top part and the second part. So we're gonna have a container for the top part and another container for the second part. So one thing to keep in mind when you write HTML is don't use div everywhere. It is not accessible, which we'll get to in a later week. There's something called semantic HTML, which there will be exercise dedicated to it. But for now, just keep in mind that don't have like a bunch of indentation of divs in your HTML. It looks ugly and it's not accessible, which you'll understand soon. Right. So for this, we're gonna use sections, which kind of makes sense. It's top section and the bottom section. So we have two sections, right? To separate these, and there is a line in between. So we're gonna have BR for this line in between. Oh wait, that's line break. I think it was HR. Let me read this graphic. Oh yeah, that looks right. Very useful MDN reference on VS Code inbuilt, so that's awesome. Cool. And we can have a title. So this is a really big title. So we're gonna say that's an H1. Okay, so you might have missed that. So if you type exclamation mark on VS Code and then enter, that will give you all the template you need, and you can start coding straight away on an empty HTML file. So yeah. Okay, we'll keep going. So H1 login to contact us. No worries. And then so that looks like a normal text. So we're just gonna go p tag. Also in VS Code, you don't have to type bracket because that's like actually key. You have to type, you can hold shift and bracket. You just need to write any tag name and then enter. It will give you the whole tag, closing it with self-closing tag as well, like image. Right. So p tag, this will help us quickly identify you and get you the right kind of help. Okay, cool. And we need two buttons. So button, login, and sign up. All right, that was the top part. Very easy. We'll look at it now. Yeah, the structure looks correct. We'll fix the style later. So let's go to section 2. Okay, so if you compare the login title and this one, this looks smaller, right? So we're going to use H2. These articles might help. And getting started and your account, they are two separate, basically like colons of stuff, right? So what's the advantage of section over div again? So it's called semantic HTML. It gives like for example, a screen reader more meanings to just div, because div doesn't mean anything. Section means this whole thing is wrapped in a section, right? So it looks cleaner on your, it's more readable as well. Like if you have like section and we're about to use another semantic HTML tag or an article, because it says this article might help. So like there's something like called an article. And they like behind the like underneath it or just divs, but like they actually give them meaning. It's like using good variable names, right? People can read your code and be like, okay, that makes sense. So yeah, so it looks like we're gonna have two articles, one on the left, one on the right. And because they are like a list of points or like articles, so we're gonna start with the H3 now. So in with headers, always go from H1 and H3. So you should not have like H3 outside of H2, because they should be in hierarchical order. All right, so H3 is getting started. And this one has your account. Lowercase for some reason. Okay. And then we have a list. So you can use unordered list URL. So unordered, it will give you dot point by default. If you use OL, order list, it will give you numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one will give you dot point. We'll have to like manually remove the dot point. You might think that's annoying, but that gives semantic then bunch of P's. So if you just like P, those P tags doesn't mean anything, just like a paragraph. But if you use like list, you know that, okay, that's one thing, and then you have another, and they're not ordered, so unordered list. So we're gonna do, how do I create? I'll just do the same, can't be bothered to type all that. And this one is, how do I reset or change my password? All right, cool. So now if I refresh, well, the structure is there, but they're not laid out properly. So in HTML, you're only concerned with the structure of the page, and CSS where you can set the layout, set the style, which is what we are going to write now. So we'll make a CSS file instead of doing inline again. So before, in the box exercise, we had a style tag, and you can write CSS there, or you can put all the CSS in a different file and using the same style tag, but like importing it instead of putting it in HTML file. Because this is getting kind of large, so we're going to do that. So style, actually, what's the shortcut? I think it's style. Oh no, it's link. Sorry, not style tag. Link CSS. There you go. So it generated a style sheet, and so the href is linking the file name style.css. So we have to create a file named exactly style.css in the same folder. Cool. So this is our style.css. So we need to basically reference HTML tags and CSS, right? So if you remember from the lecture, or if you know CSS, it's three ways you can do it: ID, by tag, and by class names. Let's just use all those, and so we can basically get to see a difference. Okay, cool. So we'll start with what do we need to change? Okay, looks like all the text is not completely black, because those looks really sharp to our eyes. So those looks like kind of grayish. So what we can do is we can use body. So like the tag body. So body contains everything, right? Here, so everything within body will be affected. So we will change the color of the text to kind of grayish. Not too dark. Sorry, too white. Too bright. We'll do like, we'll use the same that we used for the box. All right, that looks right. And yeah, also the p tags also changed as well. So that's using a tag selector for CSS. And what we will do next is the buttons. The buttons looks just like default. So we'll make them look like this. All right, so because there are two buttons on the page, usually we will not use button like this because in a larger page, it will affect every single button on the page. So in this case, it's better to use a class. So let's give this a class called button. I can't think of a name. All right, so with classes, so you just put a dot in front of it. It will allocate any class name that's button. So this is different from button without the dot. Okay, cool. So looks like this button needs a lot more padding. So padding is the one within the border. So if we give it some more padding, like we'll start with 5. See how it looks. Save. Refresh. Okay, it's totally not enough. All right, awesome. That looks about right. And there, you can see that the border is not sharp. It's rounded, so we'll give a radius of 3 pixels, maybe 5. But now there's some weird shadowing going on, so we can inspect element and see what the heck is going on there. Let's go to style. All right, there. So style. So the button, this is our CSS. So dot button is our class name. It tells you where the line number of your CSS. But you can see all this stuff. This is default giving to button. So any button will have all those default CSS attributes attached to it, properties attached to it by the browser. So you can see border. Let me try to find something. I think it's just border. Yeah, there's a whole lot of border, like image, border, color, and stuff. So we can get rid of that by saying border none. And now those shadowing and stuff, weird stuff will be gone. So you see, those are all like crossed out because we overwritten it. We've overwritten the default attributes with our class because CSS is like cascading attributes. So if you have something below this, it will overwrite what you have here. So any class attribute that we add will overwrite the default CSS attributes. Okay, cool. So that's looking good. Now we just need some colors. So for like your assignment, you could like find those colors with like Photoshop or whatever. Or have a Chrome extension to do it, but I can't be bothered. I think the color looks like aqua, like aqua, or what else was there? I saw something else. Aquamarine. Okay, I'll just pick one. Yeah, so if it's color, that will give the color to the text. So if I do it like this, sign up, both sign up and login will become that color. No, that does not look right. Okay, let's try aqua. Okay, whatever. But one of them is background color and one of them is text color and the other color is white. So what we're gonna do is, this is the general case. So we'll give an ID to each one so we can identify them and style them separately, basically. So ID, first one will be login, second one will be sign up. So it needs to be unique. So the login button will, okay, let's give a better name. I now have a better idea. So we'll give it button like this. So if something else is called login, it won't be us. Cool. So for the login button, we need the text to be white instead of aqua white, and the background color to be this. So we change this to background. And for the sign up button, this is actually, we'll just move this here anyway. And the background color needs to be white instead of this grayish thing. So they just like swapped kind of. I did not save this file. There you go. We also need a border color as well for this one. Because we said earlier border is none. we're gonna redefine the 3 attribute for border. So let's just give it 1 pixel solid and that is really hard to read. I should probably find this color. What else? Oh yeah, so you know what? I need to fix this. It's not readable. Let's just go with blue. All right, much better. So you can see this. If you zoom in, this one's slightly bigger than this one because we lost the border. So they should both have a border, and this one would just be yeah. Actually, if we move it here, they will both have a border now. So we kind of extract the similarities, like the common attributes to the button class, and the ones that's different, you can put in the ID. There you go. Now they're exactly the same. And I think they need a little more padding on the left and right compared to, so we'll just give it a little bit more on 15 on the side. Thank you, Tom, for giving us the color. Oh yeah, so like, yeah, that looks beautiful. Doesn't look exactly right, but good enough. Thank you, Tom. Okay, that should be good enough for buttons, I think. Actually, the text needs to be bold, so we can do font size. Oh, wait, that's font size. Sorry. Font style. Font weight. We just do bold. To just bold it up a little. Perfect. Yeah, I think that looks perfect. Okay, so we're moving on to the second section. Before that, let's fix our the separator as well. So we'll style it because we need more space between the buttons and the line. There are too many ways to do this. You can give padding to the whole section, like the bottom part of the padding. And you can also give the HR itself a bunch of margin. Looks like if we give a margin, it will be only margin, like margin top and bottom is different. So we can do both. We'll give a little bit of margin. So it, actually, that looks about right. So the margin at the bottom is covered by the H2. So H2 by default, implemented by the browser, also has a huge margin. So that looks okay. We don't need to touch that. We just need to touch the top part. So let's just give this section a padding bottom. So give it ID top section. We'll put it here. Wait, hash top section, padding bottom. That looks like 20 pixels. Nah, a bit more. Actually, a lot more. All right, sweet. But this line looks like it's a bit too dark. So we'll just grab this line quickly. Good old 333. That's the same. Actually, I think the color is the color of the text, so it's not actually styling this color. So let's inspect element. So if you want to play around with this without like refreshing back and forth, you can play around the depth tool. Let me just select this line. Yeah, so now if I untick this color, it doesn't change anything. So that means it's not actually affecting this. So we can try border and hash. Let's go 555. That is very, very thick. So we can make this 0.5 pixels. How did you link the CSS file? So that would be this line. Yeah. So you can in VS Code, you can just write link, and then you can find CSS, and that will give you autocomplete. Cool. No worries. Yes. So we were working on we're working in the dev tool, so we can change. Yeah, so we can change the color as well. So let's make it AAA. So it's closer to white, not enough. AAA. There you go. That looks more like it. Actually, a bit more lighter. FFF is completely white. F A B C D D maybe. Okay, perfect. So what we need to do. So after you change in the dev tool, it's not gonna reflect on this. If you refresh, you will get lost. So after playing around with it, there's a really cool tab here called changes. You can just grab whatever you made changes to and then paste in your CSS. There you go. And now if I refresh, this will be gone. No changes because everything is new. But the things we added in CSS file will be reflected. All right, that line looks about right. Now let's move on to the second section. I think the most important part is we need to get rid of the dot point and make it look like proper list. So question, even if the ID selector is on the topmost, is on the topmost in the style sheet, it's more specific and won't be override by class HTML selector below, right? And that is a very good question. So if you have an ID, for example, let's use the top section ID. If we do section here to target every section, including the one that's being styled by the ID, let's see if it overrides it. Padding. We'll just change to none. So basically get rid of this. All right, who thinks this is gonna override the padding we have? Give it a thumbs up. No one? No one thinks it's gonna override it. Jordan thinks it's gonna override it. All right, one person. Let's find out. So save and refresh. Okay, it did not override it. Well, so if we look at the style, right? Yes, so now this is actually being overridden by the ID. So it's cascading, but also there's an order. So yeah, ID is the most important one, but you can override this. You can by adding important. So boost up the importance of this attribute. So now it still doesn't work. Wait, what's this saying? There's an error rendering this. What's the syntax? Is there no space? Nope. Oh, there's a warning here. I can't see why. I think important overrides other tags. Actually, I'm not sure about this one. Does this give an error? I'm just checking. If it's like a triangle warning thing, that means the syntax is wrong. Okay, syntax is not wrong. It's just been overwritten anyway, so it's not important enough, I guess. If you multiple in the section, that will pick the important. What do you mean by multiple? Have multiple tags, right? Oh, okay. All right. Same HTML tag, but no ID, right? Section is the HTML tag, but not ID. Okay, we'll get past this. We'll go past this for now. Maybe come back to it if we have time, because we do have another exercise to go through. All right, but this is actually important now. So getting this to be on columns, to be two different columns instead of laying out like rows. All right. Okay, I believe this is in the lecture. Very important concept. How do we change the layout of this entire thing to be column-based instead of row-based? And it's using tables. Okay, that is a very kind of an old way of doing it. So I think we try not to use table is unless it's actually a table. So if there's like actual like lines and like actual table, then use table. That's more semantically correct. But yes, we should use the flex display, display flex. So we can use a flex box to make it like change the layout, like how it's arranged within the box. So we'll make this entire section a flex box so you can lay out. Actually, we can't because there's an h2 there. So we need a container that contains only the articles. Actually, they're all articles. Yeah, we just add another section, I guess, like kind of like a subsection here that does all the stuff that basically be the role of a flex container. Float works. Float is also not a really good thing to use. It's kind of like a hack to change the, because float changed the normal flow of the layout. So it might work. Yeah, if you make this one float to the right, I think. Yeah, if you make one flow left, make the other one flow right, I think it will work. I'm happy to try. So I just added a section, shouldn't change anything. It's just an actual div, but I'm happy to quickly try inline style a little. It's still not giving you okay, I think it's because I don't have enough space, right? There you go. Now we're talking. So yeah, it's not responsive again. So not good idea. All right, we will not use float, even though it kind of works in some circumstances. So we'll give this section an ID now. Let's call this a flex container. And the classic flex container has display flex. There's two other ones, attribute justify content and align items. And you can also change the flex direction to be colon instead of row. So after we do that, that should have just fixed this. If I have enough, I did not. Flex container. Did I spell this wrong? CONTA container. Display flex direction. Let's look at it on the dev tool. It's easier to debug. Okay, we have a section that is display flex. Flex direction is that. And then we have an article and an article. Yeah, we have two articles here. If I untick this, oh, okay, oops. I think the default is rows, my bad. So we shouldn't need this. So if you change the flex, it will, by default, it will lay out like in colons, even though the name is suggesting otherwise. But you can think of it as one row. So everything is displayed on the same row. But if you change direction to colon, it will display like different columns. So we'll just make it flex. It will change the layout. Well, the thing is, we need to kind of like separate them. They're like right next to each other right now. So that's where other attributes like justify content comes in. Justify content is changing the flow of the direction based on the current direction. So if we do center, they will both be moved to the center. And there's other ones like so if we in DevTool, if you like go through them, you can see the differences. Some of them are the same: space around, space between, space evenly. So we'll start with space between. So space between is stick one to the left, stick one all the way to the right, and then space in the middle. If we have 5 articles, will it be in the same row? Yes, it will. So if I just add more, it will all be on the same row. So it will be on the same row. That's the flex behavior. Okay, cool. All right, we're getting there. I need to change that to space between. All right, awesome. And then we need to get rid of the dot points. So if we look at what UL has and li, you can see the default behavior gives you line style disk. So that's, I think, the circle. List style, sorry. So if I change the list style type to be like other things, oh, what the heck was that? That looks cool. That looks cool. Oh, this asterisk numbers, but we're just gonna go with none. So we can get rid of the thing, the dot points. And the other thing is padding inline start. So that's giving a padding on the very left, like that's where it starts. So if we get rid of that, like padding inline start, none as well. Oh wait, 0. It will get rid of the padding on the left. So we'll just grab those 2 changes and then get applied to our ULs, because we don't want any ULs to have that. Cool. Now that should fix both. Awesome. And I think our li needs a little bit more padding. Or yeah, so we'll just give a little bit more padding to each li. Which we just need top and bottom. So let's do 3 pixels and 0. There you go. If you don't give this 0, it's gonna assume, okay, I only have 1 value, then I'm gonna apply it to all 4 sides. So we explicitly tell them, all right, left and right, I don't want any padding. All right, that's looking good. I can't be able to change the text. So we have 15 minutes. Let's move on to the next one.